2, 1. This is Dave Schuman here for the Success for Life podcast. I got on a guest that I haven't actually spoken to in a long time, but we used to run around back in the day at some of the football camps that were running. I want to welcome Derrick Furlow. Played football at the University of Tennessee. He's become a success coach, really. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Somebody who's really trying to help other people figure out their paths to be successful. He's an entrepreneur that started different businesses, and I let him talk about that. I think he's a real innovator in how he, kind of approaches his approach to things that are important in trying to become successful. Derrick, tell everybody a little bit about your background and what you're doing and where you came from and all that.
Well, man, Dave, first and foremost, man, appreciate you for having me on. And you're right, we definitely go back, and it's good to catch up and good to see you. It's been a while. But me, I'm Derrick Furlow. I'm originally from Southwest Atlanta. Grew up with a single mom raising 3 kids. So growing up in Southwest Atlanta, we were definitely underprivileged. So I believe growing up and going without or having that lack thereof, it gave me this burning desire to want more, to want to be more, to want to do more, to want to have more. And I wasn't really sure how that was going to happen or what was going to be the vehicle to allow that to happen for me. But over a period of time, I saw my mom struggle, and I saw her move relentlessly to put us in the best environment, in the best situation, so we could have a better life. And at one point in time, I remember us moving out of Southwest Atlanta down to this place called Griffin, Georgia. And when we got down there, my mom had a chance to meet what's today her husband, and she was able to get married. And I seen life get better just because, for one, she didn't have to do it on her own. So I was definitely thankful for that as a kid. However, I seen her never settle in the midst of all the struggling that we went through. So as a kid, a lot of those things kind of set in. So as now she's married and I'm going into middle school, late middle school, high school, I'm in an environment where things have gotten a little bit better. But growing up where I grew up, you got a couple options. You can sell drugs, you can play sports, or you can rap. Dave, I was pretty good with words, man, but I knew I had to get a big break. So, and the break wasn't coming. So Def didn't respond to none of my emails and my letters that I sent them. So rapping might not be my way out. The selling drugs part, man, I grew up with a lot of talented athletes. Georgia being a hotbed for athletes, and I always seen guys be way more skilled, way more talented, but they would blow it. Whether it was in high school, half of a basketball team getting kicked out of school, whether it was guys on the football team getting locked up. So I seen guys blow it, so I knew that wasn't really a route for me. And honestly, I wasn't sure what sport was going to be my vehicle. But I get to 9th grade, and I had a chance to finally play organized sports. That was my first time playing true organized sports. I had a chance to play rec and park 1 year, and then I had a chance to play in middle school. However, I ain't played as much as I wanted to, but I was on the team and got my first dose of, all right, what this can look like. Because when I was growing up, I was too broke to even, we didn't have any money to play for rec until my mom finally moved down there and got married. So when I got to high school, I had a chance to play all the sports, track, football, basketball. And the coach said, man, you're pretty good at these. And that's when I'm like, okay, maybe this sport deal could be the thing that get me a better life, that let me be in control, that give me something of value, because they can take me where I want to go, even though I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I just knew being in the hood wasn't a place for me to be. So at that moment, 9th grade year, I'm like, okay, sports is going to be this route. Now, which sport, I'm not sure. So things are starting to go good. I'm starting to feel like I'm coming into my own self, developing as a young man. And then my stepdad get this news, he's going to be getting a promotion. So now I'm even more excited because he's getting a promotion. But what they didn't tell us is that promotion came with him having to move. So we finally get to a place where I feel like we're going to be for a while. I made friends and we have to move. But this time this wasn't just a move in Georgia. This move was going to take us from Georgia to Southwest Arkansas, a place called Crossing. I never heard of it, never been there, didn't even know it existed. And I was fighting that with everything in my body to keep from having to leave Georgia to go to Arkansas. Well, I asked my dad and my stepmom, could I move with them? They say no. And eventually the house sells. So at this point, I moved to Arkansas. I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm upset. But what I did know, that was another blessing in disguise, because shortly after being in Arkansas, my best friend gets locked up for being in a shootout, and my cousin gets locked up for robbery, and he gets 10 years. My best friend he magically disappears, and I know 9 times out of 10, I would have been one of those guys. So now I feel like I've escaped something. However, I'm still not happy being in Arkansas. So at this moment, that's when life kind of hit me as a young man. And they were like, okay, if you want something to happen, you're going to do something about it. Because as far as I knew, I was mad and I was angry and I was upset. But my mom was doing the best thing possible to put me in the best situation. So I couldn't continue to depend on her to make me happy. I couldn't continue to depend on her to control my life, because she was doing the best that she knew how. So at that moment, I'm like, I got to come up with a plan. And I came up with this plan. It was called the Get Out of Arkansas plan. And the Get Out of Arkansas plan pretty much came down to a sports plan. And it kind of played itself together by default. So we're there. We get there during football season. They have some pretty talented guys on the team. Me and my brother get there. We get a chance to play. We make a pretty good impact. And then we go into basketball season. Well, basketball season happened to be around Christmas time when we're playing. And we have we got family back in Georgia, so we leave for Christmas and go back to Georgia. And we come back, and we had missed a couple practices, missed a couple basketball games, and the coach was like, "Hey, for you to get back on the team, you got to run 500 bleachers." And at that point, Dave, I told him I ain't like basketball that much. So now basketball, I can't play no more. So they just leave track. So track, I really didn't like track, but I was good at it. But it made me feel like punishment. So at this moment, I'm like, well, I guess this Get Out of Arkansas playing gonna have to come down to football. So I had already heard of this guy by the name of Derrick. He was a sophomore.
Okay.
Already committed to the University of Arkansas. So I said, okay, he was #1 guy in the state, #1 guy in the country. What did he do? So I just went and looked at his stats. So I put my Get Out of Arkansas plan together. I said, well, this is what I need to do. I need to have rush over 2,200 yards and have over 20 touchdowns, take the city and put the school on the map, win a state championship. That'll give me some attention. That'll get the school some attention. That'll get me a full ride scholarship back to UGA. And that was the beginning of my Get Out of Arkansas plan and my true journey into seeing what this sports vehicle could do and what was possible to give me that bigger life, to give me that hope, to give me that thing that I felt like I was searching for and needing for when I was younger growing up.
And then, so now you go and you play at Tennessee, okay? And when you were there, it wasn't Fulmer, was it?
It was Coach Schuman.
It was Fulmer, okay.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of tried to backtrack. It's funny.
You can't skip the good stuff. So I got to tell you this, because the getting to the University of Tennessee part, that was the journey within itself that helped the mission that we're on today. Because I get to Arkansas, I get this Get Out of Arkansas plan, and the school had never really been on a map like that. It wasn't really known as being a powerhouse. It never went undefeated. So I had these goals of going undefeated, taking the school to the state championship, winning this whole thing. So I go to work my junior year with a host of guys on my squad, and we just bought in. And it was kind of crazy because I had this Get Out of Arkansas plan. So I was grinding like a maniac. I don't even sure they knew why they was grinding. They just was buying into my belief that we was going to win this whole thing. And I was grinding because I got to get out of there. So it's interesting how it worked out. We open up the season, first 1, 2, 3 non-conference games, they're not even close. So we look up, we're 3-0. Next thing you know, 4, 5, 6, we laying sticks. We 6-0 in this thing. Next thing you know, Dave, you look up, 7, 8, 9, we still doing fine, Dave. We still doing fine. We 9-0. 1 game left in the season. Boom. Before playoffs, we win the game 10-0. We finished the season 10-0 for the first time in school history. So I'm like, this get out of Arkansas player that's coming to fruition. This thing is working, right?
Right.
So 3 games in the playoffs before we get to the state championship. I'm like, well, it's only right we take care of business. First game in, it's a close game. We figure out how to get it done. 11-0. Next game in, we played against. It was Wynn. They in like Northwest Arkansas, something like that. We played against a team spread offense. Close game. Fourth quarter comes down to a couple major plays. We figured out how to get the job done. 12-0. So I'm like, okay, we 1 game away from the state championship. This get out of Arkansas plan is working. I can't wait for this thing to come to fruition because I got to get out of here, right? The day we get to this game, we play in Bologna. They in like Central Arkansas. And these guys, they very disciplined. It kind of reminds you of an Army team right now, like an Air Force or Army. And they knew our advantage was speed. And, man, we get up there, and it looked like we was going to play on a cow pasture. The grass is 10 feet high, and the grass is wet. And, man, we get out there on that field. We can't turn. We can't run. Every time we try to turn and run, we fall. So we pretty much played. We tackled ourselves the whole game. It was 14-0 the whole game to the fourth quarter. We scored 14-7. They end up scoring again 21-7. We lose that game. They get out of Arkansas playing crashes and burns, Dave. Burns, Dave.
Although you still went pretty far, so you went to the championship, right?
We were one game away from
the championship. And so, I mean, you helped take a program that had never been there before, right? And so, I mean, and then what happened from that point forward? So then did Tennessee come in and or how did that all come to fruition?
I got to tell you, because it looks like it's all going, it's all good, all sunshine and rainbows. But
right.
What about life right here? So that game happens, and of course, I get some attention. The school gets some attention. The school's on the map. The city started being on the map. And that caught a lot of people's attention. We had a good, solid team. It wasn't just a one-man wrecking crew, even though it worked out the long run in my favor.
Right.
So we started getting attention. All of a sudden, I started getting a chance to go on these visits. So I'm going on visits, Ole Miss, LSU, going to Georgia. I went to Georgia like 5 times because that's why I planned on going.
Right.
All these smaller schools, these D1 AA's, I'm like, look, you know what? I went to visit ULM, Monroe, Florida Atlantic, Siemens Star. You know what? I'm not coming down there. Like, my mind was made up. So the ego of a young guy, you know what? I appreciate y'all, but I'm not coming down there. So I already know I'm going. So I'm burning bridges now. Now I'm burning bridges. I'm turning away all these smaller schools because I already know I'm going. Me and Georgia done talked 4 or 5 times. I go to their senior camps, all this good stuff. Coach Rucker's there. He's like, hey, you gonna come in? He was running back coach. Coach Rick's there. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden, I get this call when I'm working out in the weight room, and it's Coach Houston Nutt, and they want me to come visit Arkansas. Well, I had visited I went up there twice. I wasn't planning on going there, but it's the last. They had this top guys in the state, and at this point, I hadn't even met Derrick McFadden because we was in a different conference. But they said, hey, I want you guys all to be there. So I really wasn't gonna go. My mom's like, okay, you should go. Coach like, okay, you should go. So we go up there, and we get up there to top guys, and I remember walking in. And it's this one guy. He was like, "Hey man, you're Derrick Furlow. Y'all had a good run last year, blase blase." I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Cool, man. You heard that Derrick McFadden is moving up, and y'all actually gonna be playing them this year." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Well, that's cool. I didn't know that yet." He said, "Yeah, man. So what you think about him?" I'm like, "Man, I heard he's pretty good. I don't really know the guy." Well, come to find out, that was his teammate, and Darren was standing right behind me, so he was trying to set me up. It was kind of funny, but. They was moving up a division, so we was gonna be playing them this year. So
right.
I met him at the camp. We go through the camp. We do these ball drills, these DB drills. And the last drill, man, before I got out of there, I jumped for this ball, kind of got off balance in the air, and I come down kind of funny. And I land wrong, but it's no biggie. So camp ends. I take it to the house. Well, on that ride home, Dave, man, it's a 5-hour drive from Northwest Arkansas down to Southeast Arkansas. On that drive home, man, my knee swells up. So in my head, it's the size of a grapefruit, but I'm like, all right, I did something to it, but it ain't came in the major. So come to find out, they said I had tore my meniscus, so I had to get a scope. So a week, 2 goes by, I finally get the appointment to go get the scope. And coach was like, hey, you know what, you get the scope, we'll let you rehab for a little bit, and you just, the first couple games, we'll just sit you out, you come back, when conference play start, we'll take care of business. So Dave, I go to get the scope. I get the scope done in Louisiana because we're so far south in Arkansas. the best doctors was in Louisiana besides going hundreds of miles the other direction.
Right.
And I'm in the hospital, and I remember waking up as I'm getting rolled out the emergency room, and I tapped my left leg, and I'm kind of in the fog in the daze, and it's this brace on my leg. And as I come to, I see the doctor over my right shoulder. I'm like, hey, doc, what's this brace? And at that moment, the doc said, we repaired your ACL.
Oh.
Yes. And at that moment, I felt like my life ended. I woke up, ACL, what? What do you mean you repair my ACL? That's not what I was here for. And stuff hit the fan. My mom comes in, I'm mad, I'm crying, I'm yelling, and come to find out, the doctor said that it was partially torn.
Oh, yeah.
If not fixed it, it would have been considered malpractice. And at that moment, I was obsolete off the football landscape. My dreams, the get out of Arkansas plan, all that I saw that I was working on, I felt like it was just took from me. It was just stripped from me. And at this moment, I wasn't sure what to do. I was mad at the world, angry, upset, frustrated, because everything that I had been working for, it was finally in my control, and it just got took from me from a surgery I wasn't even supposed to have. And at that moment, man, I think that's when a lot of what I'm doing today kind of came to fruition, even though I didn't even know it, because at this point, all those schools that I had visited, especially Georgia, Coach Rucker ended up taking a job at the University of Texas. So now all those relationships that I was visiting when I was going to Georgia, guess what? Those relationships stopped talking. Coach Rick wasn't recruiting me. Coach Rucker was. All those small schools I had talked to, I told them I wasn't coming. So guess what? They weren't looking at me anymore. All of a sudden, I had options to having no options.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was your senior year, right? So this is okay.
Missed the whole senior year, Dave.
Wow.
So the team started off 3-0 because Coach didn't release the news. And when they heard I wasn't coming back, they pretty much doubled down on a couple of good receivers we had, one of them being my brother. And we couldn't score. They ended up finishing the season 5-5. The exact same teams minus a couple guys.
Wow. And
at this moment, I'm like, I remember sitting in my room doing the rehab, and I was mad, I was angry, I was crying, and I was just laying on my bed saying, why me, Lord, why me? And I remember some saying to me, I gave you that football stage for my glory, and you was using that football stage for your own personal, selfish ambitions, reasons, and goals. And since I gave you that stage, I had to take it away from you to get your attention. And I mean, at that moment, I'm like, well, you got my attention, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And in my head, I had this false sense of Cinderella-hood that I'm going to be able to rehab 3 times a day, and I'm going to come back before the season ends and still help the team make playoffs, right? Well, it didn't work like that.
Yeah. Nature don't work like that, yeah.
It don't work like that, Dave. And that's what I was thinking in my head. And sure enough, man, what ended up happening, track, which I couldn't stand, was the only other thing that I could do after going through rehab. So track comes around, and I'm like, you know what? I got to run just to see how my knees going to respond. So I started doing track. And sure enough, it comes back around where it's going into spring ball, 9 months from that surgery. And I get this letter in the mail 2 months, no, actually a month before graduation, and it's invited me to the spring fling at the University of Tennessee. I never visited Tennessee in my life. I seen Tennessee play one time in 2004, and they was playing against Georgia. And guess who I was rooting for, Dave?
What?
I was rooting for Georgia. All right.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah,
I'm playing.
Yeah.
Well, I found out. I get this letter in the mail. I had no idea how I got it, why Tennessee sent it to me. But I'm like, this is the only light I got. So we took a visit to the spring practice, right? We get to the University of Tennessee campus. The campus felt different to me. It was the strangest feeling. It was a feeling I never felt before in my life on getting on the university's campus. So I'm there, had a chance to see the team play. And after the game, I was walking with a couple of the guys that were playing. And I remember a good friend of mine now, David Hobart, saying, hey, man, I believe you belong here, and they're going to take good care of you here. And he said that right before I had to go meet with Coach Foreman, Coach Caldwell, and Coach Slade. So I walked to the office, and I remember walking into the office. In my head, I'm like, I'm not even sure how they know of me or how this came about. And I walk in, and Coach Caldwell is there. I think he's at the University of Arkansas now, if I'm not mistaken. But he's there, and he's like, Derrick, what's going on, man? He's like, Derrick, what's going on, man? I knew you were a pretty good player. We actually saw you on film doing some 7-on-7 stuff against two guys that were already committed and coming here. So we had been watching for you, and we had been keeping our eyes on you, but we heard you got hurt and some things not working out for you. So I said, you're right. Things are definitely not working out for me. So he said, this is what we can do. Right now, we're not sure how your knee's going to respond based off you coming off the injury, but we got a spot for you. And if your knee responds how it's capable of responding, you return to be the player you're capable of being, we got a full ride scholarship waiting on you. Dave, at that moment, I had no idea how none of the business stuff in college sports works. I just said, sign me up, I'm here. And that's how I got to the University of Tennessee. The easy road was not there. It was not how it was supposed to be. It was not with the win the state championship, putting the city in on map and getting that full ride that way. No, it was the hard way, man.
That's interesting. That's quite a story. That's one way to get there. That's definitely a road that a lot of people probably are not familiar with. Although I'll tell you, like, one of the things that with kids all the time, like I always tell them, like it doesn't happen the way that you think it's going to happen. Yeah, everyone goes on, like, now they go on 24/7 sports or whatever. Used to go on Rivals back when, probably you were
right.
You were in high school, and they think that path just kind of, for the guys that are real good, like you were, that it just becomes a one way, and it really isn't. Like, and there's adversity that's going to come in at some point, and how you begin to handle that adversity is going to dictate everything else. Obviously you played there, and obviously you were on some really good teams, and you had some success there as a football player. How did you then, and you could jump back and forth however you how did you go, like, how did you know that you wanted, and I remember, like when you were at the camps, and you were definitely, you were working on some things then, and but how did you know that your goal was going to be an entrepreneur, and then to be able to try to figure out how you could help others on their own journeys? Like, what started that path for you?
Man, but believe it or not, when I got to Tennessee and that adversity hit on the front end, it woke me up, because that journey wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. So once I experienced that adversity on the front end, and then I had to get to the University of Tennessee, I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, right? Because I come in 2005 with the #1 recruiting class in the country, and I felt like technically I was a part of it. However, it wasn't official because I didn't get the scholarship paper on the front end.
Right.
It was a delayed gratification for the scholarship paper. So I feel like I had this chip on my shoulder. So my first year there, I had to work my tail off. And then I go back to coach and say, hey, coach, I got big, I got strong, I got faster. Can I get my scholarship? And coach says no. So now I'm like, okay, it didn't happen that easy in that first year. So we get back at it. We go through camp. I go back to coach and say, hey, coach, I got big, I got strong, I got faster. I knew my alignments, I knew my assignments, I knew my reads, I knew my check. Can I get my scholarship? And they said no. So at this point, I'm like, all right, what's going on? And now it's like, maybe this whole football deal maybe this wasn't for you. Maybe it was meant to teach you something. Maybe it was something bigger behind the wall of this whole football mess, right? So at this point, I thought about transferring. But I went to the academic advisors, and they said, hey, these hours you got, if you transfer to the place you was looking at, like Wake Forest or Duke, because Coach Cutcliffe went to Duke, 70% of your credits won't transfer, so you're going to be starting all over. And I said, I don't like school that much, so I can't be transferred. So at this moment, I started to be aware of what football was teaching me. And it was teaching me something that was bigger than the game. We call it football practice, but I started to realize it was life prep. It was prepping me for life. It was prepping me for something bigger than just this game. But all that stuff that frustrated, all that adversity, all the stuff that wasn't good, that was unsettling to me, was happening on the front end that kind of changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. Because on the front end, you think it's just a game, come and play football, you get to the league. But when life started happening and you see there's a business side to it, and you see that, hey, it ain't going to be that easy, and you see, hey, it's only a small amount of guys that's going to the league that was on the team before you, and all those guys were bigger, stronger, and faster, and bigger than you just because you're a young guy coming out of high school, and they all didn't go to the league. it started to wake you up a little bit. So at about my redshirt sophomore year, a lot happened. And the first thing that happened was my buddy Inky Johnson got hurt. And this was kind of the turning point that really shifted my perspective. And I remember us getting a chance to go see him 3 days after his surgery. And we walked into the hospital room. It was the whole DB unit. We got 13 deep. And everybody wasn't even in the room yet. But Coach Slade was in the front. And he said, Ink, how you feeling? And I happened to be pretty right behind Coach Slade, about the third guy in line. And Ink said, I'm at peace. And when Ink said, I'm at peace, it hit me because I was sitting there mad, angry, frustrated, upset about my scholarship. I hadn't got it yet. Felt like I earned it. Felt like I was getting gypped. And my boy almost lost his life. His arm is paralyzed. And he says he's at peace. And when he said that, I'm like, what am I mad for? Like, what am I up here focused on? This guy almost died. His arm's paralyzed, and he's at peace. And I'm up here mad about a scholarship, a piece of paper. So at that moment, I said, I'm not sure what piece he got, but that's the same piece I need. And that's when God kind of brought this thing full circle to me, because I was still focused on my own selfish ambitions, reasons, and goals when I got to college, just like I was in high school when he took the stage away from me the first time. But at this point, when I finally noticed it, he said, hey, you still focusing on your own personal, selfish ambition, reasons, and goals. So I'm not going to give you what you want. So, man, at that moment right there, I said, you know what? This thing's so bigger than me. It's not even about me. So I started to focus on helping my younger teammates that was growing up, coming from even tougher situations than what I was coming from, that might have needed some mentorship, that might have needed some help. I started focusing on being the best teammate I can be, being the best person I can be for them, helping them with FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Mm-hmm. And, man, the more I got locked into that stuff, it's amazing. Spring came around. I'm showing up on every play when they showing it on defense. Next thing you know, reporters are starting to come to me asking why this guy not playing as much, asking coach why this guy not on scholarship. And sure enough, man, by the time camp ended, I didn't have to go back to coach and say, hey, coach, can I get my full ride? Coach came to me and said, hey, Derrick, man, you played unbelievable. You had the best camp we've ever seen. We want to give you a full ride scholarship. So my scholarship was delayed 2 years, but in that 2 years, it grew me to a point that I realized this thing ain't about me. So now when I saw the game and I seen what it taught me, I'm like, it's a lot of lessons this game is teaching guys, and guys missing it. And everybody gonna go to the next level. And even if you do, you still need to know what the game is teaching you. So that's kind of what happened. And at that moment, opportunity as far as network marketing, it was this one particular product that had came out that helped my knee, just sort of from a nutritional perspective. I seen that as a way to help myself, and it helped me, so I shared it with other teammates as well, and they got some benefits from it. So at that point, I seen guys get health benefits, so that's kind of what's made me trigger, okay, if this sports thing don't work out, football gives you a brand, it gives you a stage, it teaches you a lot of life lessons. How can you use that for a vehicle and create a vehicle that allow you to do something with this football stage, because it's really bigger than this football game in general. So that's kind of how it all triggered me my red shirt sophomore year.
That's amazing. And so talk about a couple things. So FCS, what impact did FCS have on and that's Fellowship of Christian Athletes, for some people who may not know, but what kind of impact did that have on you? Because I was a part of it in college. It's funny because in North Jersey where I live, and I coach up here, and we're trying to kind of grow it up here, and it's not easy. It's a lot easier in the South to grow. In the Northeast, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Especially in the public schools, like they don't there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through to get that done. So talk a little bit about how FCA helped you, and what kind of guidance that provided for you as you were going through some of these things.
Man, FCA helped me for one. It helped my relationship with the Lord, with Christ. It made me realize that, hey, I was put here for something bigger than this game, and it kind of took the edge off because it allowed me to focus on controlling the controllables. Prior to that, I was trying to control everything, and I couldn't control everything. So it allowed me to control the controllables, which when it got down to practice, when it came down to studying film, when it came down to taking care of grades, when it came down to those things that I can directly do, that's what I was supposed to do. Everything else, as far as how a coaching decided to play me, how a coach decided to not play me, or what play calls coach called, like all that stuff I couldn't control. So it allowed me to just really take a step back and realize, hey, man, this thing bigger than you, and all you can do is control the controllables. And then from there, it made me realize that, hey, this football game right here, this is just a game. this is a blessing. This is a gift. This is an opportunity. It ain't life or death. And
right.
once you realize that, man, it made you more grateful, and it made the game fun versus when you would be at practice and you didn't necessarily want to be at practice because, oh man, I got to do this. It made it where I get to do this. Man, I get a chance to go out here and play in front of these people. So it changed the whole perspective of it, and it became fun again. And also, it made a lot of guys playing sports, man, they feel like they got to be Superman and feel like they can't be vulnerable and realize they got to do it all on their own. And when you get a chance to really just lock in and give your faith and your trust to the Lord, man, it makes it easier on you. Because if things don't go your way, if things don't work out, it's all good. Like, because you ain't holding that weight of the world on yourself. And when you got a lot of guys, and you get your teammates on the same page, it makes you play together. Because you believing in something that's bigger than you. So now when you get tested, not only are you not going to quit on your brother to your left, your brother to your right, but you realize you're in that test for a reason, and it just made you realize it's stuff you can still learn. So it opened my eyes and helped me focus so much and relieved a lot of the excess indirect pressure of what you are supposed to look like, what you're supposed to act like, what you're supposed to be like, that stereotypical athlete get. And it made it where, man, I'm a kid with an opportunity, and I get a chance to take advantage of it, and I'm grateful for it, and it just changed the whole perspective of it. So it was so unreal, man, and then allowed me to grow that relationship, to get that peace that Inky had. It set the foundation for me to have that peace, being away from my parents, being away from the people that was going to help me go to church and keep me in line. FCA gave me some accountability off the field with my spiritual walk. So I was getting that physical cardio on the field. I was getting that mental cardio with the playbooks and in class, but also getting that spiritual cardio that was allowing me to become a well-rounded individual. So now, as life hit me at any angle, I was prepared to attack it now, unlike if I wouldn't have not had that, had my armor on with FCA, man. So it did so many wonders for me.
Inky Johnson. So it's interesting. I didn't realize that you played with him. Obviously, he's become, a worldwide speaker and everything. And some people know his story. Not everybody knows the story, but obviously, I've seen his story before. I've seen him speak. What are some of the things? Like, I mean, do you still get in touch with? Do you talk to Inky? Okay. Yeah. So how is that? I guess maybe things you've learned from him. But also helped you kind of understand your own, success journey, like looking at what Inky's been able to do. And literally, he's literally a worldwide speaker, and shares his story with people, and shares, how he's been able to become successful from it, and started at a really young age. I mean, I don't know exactly how young, but he was really young, like very fresh out of college.
Yep.
What are some things that you learned from him and someone who speaks with him on a regular basis and in your own kind of path?
So Dave, that's funny you said it, man, because from that moment, from the hospital to now, Ink's been my guy. However, we talked about the game differently. Like the lingo of the game, we use it in our personal lives, right? So this is kind of what helped set the foundation for what I'm doing now, because me and Ink would go back and forth, and we would apply a lot of the things that we did in practice, whether it was, let's say we're going to watch film. Let's say we're going to do some extra after practice. Let's say we're going to do some one-on-one drills. We call that stuff right there life prep. So when me and Ink would go back and forth and wonder, okay, we see guys that was coming out before us. Some guys go to the league, some guys don't. Then the guys that didn't, or the guys that had a short-lived career in the league, whether we played against them or whether we knew them, we seen them the fall off. We seen them struggle with what was next for their life. And me and Ink, we were questioning because we were saying, man, if these guys can go through all this playing in the SEC, you should be able to do anything. But do guys turn the switch off? Do guys not apply it? It does not carry over. And at that moment, it was kind of like, I'm with Ink. He's starting to speak. And in my head, I'm like, all right, there's not a book, there's not a class, there's not a course that you can read that say, hey, I learned this in sports. How do I apply it in life and in business? However, me and Inky had the conversation on a regular basis, so I knew I wasn't the only one who was getting, okay, I learned this in sports. I learned how to use adversity and use it to my advantage. He was living using his adversity to his advantage, but there's not a class that shows you how to do it. So that's kind of where the whole concept of sports life business, where they all come together, came about, because I'm sitting here thinking it, doing it on a smaller level. Ink's doing it on a level that's scaling and growing, and people can see it. So the proof that, hey, you can learn something from sports, and sport wasn't just really preparing you for the football game. It was preparing you for the adversity when you get ready to when you lose your arm. It was preparing you for the adversity when you one season away from the NFL, and it took it away from you. I was one season away from getting a full ride scholarship to college. It was taken away from me. So sports was preparing us for, hey, you're gonna get in life, and you think you're gonna get this job, and you want interview away, and all of a sudden they hire somebody else. So we was able to just see the correlation. So our conversations, the ones we still have today, we try to figure out, okay, what did we learn in sports that we can take away? I call it TCC. You take away, you correlate it, and you carry it over. What did we learn in sports that we was able to take away, correlate, and carry over? So everything we do, for example, when it come down to him being this speaker that you see, people don't understand, he prepares his speaking just like he prepares for the game. So this is a formula that I created, but it's created in sports. However, a lot of guys don't use it in life, and I call it the learning formula. Well, when you think about it, Dave, you're a coach, you know how this works. If you are preparing for a team, first you get a team a scouting report, right? Y'all look at the scouting report. Once you look at the scouting report, you find out their strengths, their weaknesses, right? You watch some film on them. You go to practice. You practice it. After practice, you go back, you watch film again. Then you go do walkthroughs, role play, and then you watch film again. Well, I get done playing ball, and I get into sales. After we started doing the NUC camps, I get into sales. Never really been in sales, never did corporate stuff in my life. I get into sales, Dave, and I'm getting my teeth kicked in. I'm sucking it up, right? So a year and a half goes by, and I'm like, okay, what did I learn in sports that I can use, that I can take away, correlate, and carry over that can make me good at sales? How did I get good at football that can go over here? So all I started doing, well, they gave me a script to use in sales. I started studying the script. Well, all of a sudden, I went and role played the script with other sales reps, and I recorded it. Then I watched the film on it. Oh, I made some corrections. I went back and role played it again. So by the time a real life customer came in, guess what? I had studied the script, watched the film, role played it, corrected the mistakes, knew how they was going to respond. So now it was game day. When a real customer came in, I was able to execute just like the game. So when we start putting this thought process in our head, okay, Ink, Lo, what did sports teach you in this particular phase? Okay, how can you take that away? How can you correlate? How can it carry over? And at that moment, I was with him while he was scaling up. But at that moment, I said, okay, I got to create a place where it can be a class, a course, a book, and now online and video, so athletes can get it. Because if you can take it away, correlate it, and carry it over, and you know your learning formula, and what made you good at the last thing that you was the best at the top of your league at, all you got to do is you in the next phase of your life. It's a wrap. Nothing can stop you. And that's exactly what you're doing right now.
So now, here's what's interesting. So you have a book, right? Or is it a booklet? Or
So I got a book, I got a curriculum, and some online programs. So I done pretty much came up with a whole Sports Life Business University.
So okay, great. So talk a little bit about like what you're trying to get people to be able to take away from that and learn from your book and your courses. Talk a little bit about that.
So the end goal, I realized that sports teaches you so many lessons. I call it life prep, because as an athlete, you get a chance to practice how you gonna respond to adversity, practice how you gonna respond to emotions, practice how you gonna respond to big wins, practice how you gonna respond to big losses, practice how you gonna respond to coaches get fired. So all of those things are in a controlled setting that's a game, right? Well, when you get into life, life is going to happen, and guess what? You're going to have some big wins in life and some big losses. Well, sports allowed you to practice how you're going to respond. Oh, you get into life, you might get fired. Sports allowed you to practice how you're going to respond. Oh, when you get into life, you're going to get married and you ain't going to always get along with somebody. Well, when you was with your teammates, you didn't always get along, but you had to work it out because I had a game plan. So I seen the correlation. So with the first book, What's Next? How to Transition Like a Champ, athletes on any level, whether it's high school, college, or professional, when they get done, a lot of them go through what I called, it's a lot of different reasons why they don't transition the best that they possibly can transition. So this book is designed, for one, to help walk them through that transition process and show them how to transition like a champion. Because deep down, they already got the principles, but they got the switch turned off. They don't think it correlates. They don't think it's relevant. They don't carry it over to the next phase of their life. And if they just take the time to make it relevant and correlate it and carry it over, the next phase of whatever they do, they can pick up right where they left off in the last phase. However, most athletes fall off because they turn off the switch, don't think all those lessons, all those hours in the gym, all those hours in the pool, on the mound correlate, all that film study correlate, all that extra mental toughness correlate, all that discipline correlates. They don't think it correlates, so they fall off. So What's Next is designed to show them how to take all those principles, philosophies that the game done taught you, figure out which ones work for you, show you how to take it away and correlate it, and then show you how to carry it over to the next phase of your life. So now you don't have this 3-year, 4-year, 5-year identity jail crisis where you don't know who you are, you don't know how to respond, you don't know how to do the next thing, and then you're sitting here suffering and your family's suffering, everybody's suffering around you because you're caught up hoop dreaming, thinking that, oh, you still can go play sports and still watching your high school film or still watching your college film 20 years later, and you ain't made any progress in your life.
That's a really important point. So, one of the things that I've seen in with great athletes, and I went through it myself, and I'm sure you went through it, is you have to be willing to humble yourself that you went to the mountaintop, whatever that mountaintop level was as an athlete, whatever your highest ability took you to be, and then you go into the next phase and you still think that you're on the mountaintop. And what you don't realize is it's just like being a freshman all over again.
Yes.
And you have to realize, you have to kind of, and even if you played, 5 years in the NFL, and you might have better opportunities because of that.
Right.
Because now you might be known or whatever, you'll have better opportunities, but you still have to humble yourself to get into the mode of working like you were when you were a freshman, where you were trying to take somebody's job or, so on and so forth. And I think that's a hard thing because as you get to whatever your top level is athletically, everyone's patting you on the back, telling you how good you are. People want to interview you and ask you a lot of questions. What are the things that you try to teach people to how to humble themselves, how to kind of get that mindset back?
So with the book, What's Next? How to Transition Like a Champion, it's designed to let them know exactly what you said. That pinnacle, you was there, you're the next phase. So that could be a valley, it could be a plateau, it could be different. So it's going to identify it, and it's going to help them identify themselves as somebody outside of being an athlete, because that's their identity. And if that's gone, and that's all they feel they can be, then they won't ever do anything else. They won't ever excel in anything else. So they kind of put that self-limiting belief. Oh, I'm an athlete. All I can do is ball. Or all I can do is play tennis. And so for one, it's removing those false thoughts. And for one, making them come back to reality. Hey, I'm more than an athlete. I can do this. I'm capable of this, this, and this. And it just shows you that how in athletics you were versatile. You might have, let's say on basketball, you play offense and defense on basketball. If you're on the court, you play offense and defense. So you're versatile already. And then all of a sudden, you might get some assists, you might get some rebounds, you might score some points. So you got multiple categories that you're versatile in. So the sport game done taught you that already. However, in your life, you think, oh, I'm just an athlete. It just shows you was versatile. You got rebounds, you got assists, you got blocks, like you got steals. You're versatile at doing more than one thing on that court at one time. So it makes them in tune with, hey, you're more than just an athlete, and you're versatile. So now that you know that you're more than an athlete and you're versatile, let's find out another purpose for you, because you thought football or tennis or track was your purpose. So then your purpose over, you feel like you're done living. Well, let's find you a new purpose. So we walk through a process of finding another purpose. And then once we find a purpose, you got to figure out something that's going to keep you up late at night and wake you up early in the morning. So going through the process of the game, exactly what the game did for you, what else in life can give you that same fulfillment that you probably already been doing that you didn't even think about, and you can also get paid to do that you probably never thought about, or that also you can do that, and it might be not necessarily for the money, because you might have made some money already. Then again, it could be like me. I knew it solved the problem. However, it can make some money as well. So it helps bring it back to reality and show them how the game had prepared them for that situation that they're in right now, and make them realize they're not as far as behind as they really feel like it. So they may be a freshman again. However, they're a freshman again, but with a senior IQ. So now all they got to do is start thinking and applying it differently, and the results are going to come at a different pace. But a lot of times, like you said, the ego from the pats on the back, being at the mountaintop, it hinders you from where you are truly at and what you're truly supposed to be doing. And we forget what season we in. I made a video about this not too long ago. We forget what season we in. We think we're still in the postseason as a champion, and we're in the whole offseason in a new career. And we're in the offseason and you ain't doing the right work. You doing postseason work in your old career, in the last chapter that you're supposed to be doing preseason work in your new chapter. And bro, you ain't gonna get nowhere doing that. So it had to put them in perspective. Hey man, you in the offseason of a preseason before a season, before a postseason of a whole other chapter of your life. You ain't playing tennis no more. You ain't playing track no more.
That is fantastic. I think you just blew my mind a little bit on that. So, and my mind doesn't get blown up. Like, I think I got certain things down, but that's a really, really interesting way of thinking about it. Helping them to understand, like I always kind of say that when you get into like business, a lot of people end up going into business, but whatever it is you get into, but if you do get into business, like you were in sales, I say if you can find, like you talked about, their passion, or something that you enjoy doing at least, or something that you want to be a part of, or something that provides that purpose for you. The cool thing about business is that you get to compete every single day, and you get to evaluate yourself every single day. Like if you decide that you want to take a nap during a day, there is maybe a positive thing from it. You feel more rested, but there also is a time lost there too, right? So you're constantly have to be willing to evaluate what you're doing every single day, week, month, year, and the competitive aspect of business never stops. So you're continuing to compete, and you have to learn that you're competing for the long haul. So if you go and, if you go out and you decide that because it's a marathon, it's no longer a sprint, right? And it's a marathon, and a part of that marathon is like, okay, I'm going to compete in the marathon. I'm going to go run 100 miles today, and I've never run 100 miles before. Well, you're going to be laid up for weeks after that. But if I keep progressing and moving forward over time, I'll get better and better at what I'm doing. And as I keep evaluating myself and looking at what I'm doing and trying to be it's always hard to be honest with yourself, because especially I think if you're an athlete and you have a certain level of confidence in your own abilities, to go and then be critical of something that you might be doing, it's hard. It's very hard. That self-reflection is hard. But you want to try and be as honest with yourself as you can about, hey, did I get better in what I'm doing right now? Am I making progress? Am I kidding myself? Did I, I made 10 calls today. Well, I probably should have made 25 calls today it's not always only about calls, but reaching out, right? So you can text or you can Instagram. Are you making enough contacts each day? And those are the things about being competitive. And then obviously closing sales or whatever it is, whatever it is that you're trying to get from a value standpoint to help your world, however that is evaluated. And that's a key thing. So like how you talk about getting them to get out of the postseason, like you haven't won the championship. And one of the things in business is even if you think you won the championship, there's somebody else that's making way more money than you are. There's somebody that's way better than you are. And we used to talk about this. I ran track in high school. My father is a track coach for 50 years now. And he's 79 years old. And he used to say this to me as a kid. And one of the reasons he liked that I played football and there was an opportunity there, he used to say, listen, as good as you are on track, he's like, there's always going to be somebody faster.
Come on now.
And so it's, you know, just trying to be the best that you can be, try to figure out what you have to do to be the best at what you can do, because literally there's always going to be somebody faster. And I mean, unless you're Usain Bolt, there's always going to be somebody faster. And if you keep going in that race where you're just purely thinking about who can you beat every single time, you're not focused on what you got to do to be the best that you can be.
Right.
Because you can't control. You said about controlling the things that you can control, and not worrying about like God or or whatever your belief is as a person.
Right.
But I'm the same way. I like some of these things in God's hands that I can't control, and not focusing on that, not worried about it, controlling what you can't control, and not trying to grab too much, right? Grab too much and try to make everything, but just going after it and doing the very best you can. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, you just dropped some knowledge, but that's you hit it right on the head, man. I mean, that's the game teach you to control the controllables, minimize the variables, and take massive action. And if you take those same principles that the game teach you and apply it to life and the business, you'll get the same results. Because when it comes down to controlling the controllables, you can't control if a guy bounces in or out. If you're supposed to be blocking, if you're blocking the A gap, you block the A gap. You can't control which way the guy bounces. Just do your job. You minimize the variables by watching film, knowing your alignment, knowing your assignment, knowing the snap count, knowing your stuff. And then you just take action. You block as much as you're supposed to block, and you do your job. So everything else that happens outside of that, man, when you turn on the film and you grade it and you watch it, it won't be on you because you control the controllables. You took massive action. You minimize the variables and you took massive action, and everything else chips gonna fall where they may. So the game teaches you that principle already. We just gotta realize it and then apply it to our life and our business.
I love that. So minimizing the variables. I actually, it's something that I just wrote that down because I never actually thought about it that way. And then massive action, which I would say is a big Tony Robbins. Honestly, that's of all the stuff. Listen to a million Tony Robbins things. The one thing he gives you different kind of plans. The take massive action thing. In everything I've ever done in life, when I've taken massive action, things have happened positively.
That's it.
And I think that of all the things he teaches, to me, that is like by far the most important thing, because the other stuff leads up to take massive action, right? And we've been on for a while, which is great, obviously. I want to tell me a little bit about 10X and what you learned there. Obviously there's some big speakers, and Grant Cardone's really kind of in a very short time period, pushed himself to the forefront of a lot of these things. And, as far as from a motivational speaker standpoint, and he had a lot of great speakers there. And as somebody that listens to some of it, some of his stuff, and there's some things I like that he does. What did you come away with 10X from? Would you come away with it?
So Grant always says, put yourself in proximity of power. You got to spend money to get around power, people with relationships, people that can elevate you. So that's one thing I always been big on conferences. However, seeing that lineup, man, it was a lot of proximity to power in the building. And most of them weren't necessarily speakers. Most of them were entrepreneurs who got the job done, and they just sharing their story on how they got it done. So that was the even more exciting part behind it, because they were people that had been in the trenches, and we see them on the back end. We see them on the 20 years later, not on the 20 years earlier part. So
right.
You get a story on the front end that they started off like you and me with a vision and a goal and a dream. They just took massive action and never quit. And boom, oh, now we know your name. Oh, now you're on this stage. So that was one of the biggest takeaways. And then one of the other biggest takeaways were everybody on the stage. It was a common theme, and John C. Maxwell said it, but everybody else indirectly alluded to it. And they said, John, what do you do to write 82 books? He said, I write every single day. On my birthdays, I write. When I'm sick, I'm write. When I don't feel like writing, I write. When it's our anniversary, I write. When we was on our honeymoon, I write. He literally said, I write every single day. And literally everybody up there on the stage, whatever they did to master the craft, perfect the craft, they worked on this grind every single day, regardless of what people thought, regardless on what people said. So GC said, hey, people say you shouldn't throw 10X Growth Con in Miami Super Bowl weekend. Not for 1 day, but for 3 days. You're crazy. Nobody's going to show up. Well, I did it anyway. 35,000 people showed up. So when they come down to me promoting for this thing, I had to promote every single day. So that was the biggest takeaway. I had a chance to go with my wife, so it was cool because she gets a chance to see the thought process and allow us to get on the same page. So now, as I'm grinding, she grinding, and we can think the same and move together as a team, as a unit, versus one person moving this way, one person moving that way. And it brings you to unnecessary issues in the household. So
absolutely,
that was a major thing with Elena. What they call it, Building Your Empire. That book, it talks about getting everybody on the same page, and then everybody that else was there indirectly confirmed getting the people that's in your household on the same page, and it allows you to move a whole lot faster pace, more steadily, because everybody knows the end goal. Just like a team has taught you, if everybody got a desired goal and desired outcome, and everybody working towards that desired outcome, that's how you win a championship. Look at the Patriots. So at the end of the day, it's the game shows us everything we know already. However, we got to figure out how can you take it down, break it down to the basics and apply it. So 10X confirmed some things I already knew and let me hear some things from other people, which just allowed me to continue to put my foot on the gas, along with having my wife put on the gas as well. So it was solid all around, man. I got a whole bunch of notes.
That's really cool. I think I'm going to have Elena on the podcast soon. So she told me to just schedule it up with her. So
that's my girl. She's solid.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's Grant's a little bit harder to get, but I mean, but Elena, it's interesting because I think it's important for people to understand that perspective as with the spouse and what you deal with in entrepreneurship. And I would say like entrepreneurship, it's my favorite journey. You know, when I was building the camps, you know, and you were on the travel squad for a while, you know, that the impact it was making and the scale that we got it to, but then we had to deal with adversity. I always tell people, like, I knew that the things that are going on in high school now with numbers was going to happen because I saw it at my camps. We went from having 25,000 athletes to now we have 6,000-7,000 athletes a year. And yeah, part of it is competitive. You know, the other companies come in. So let's say that's 3,000 or 4,000 people maybe taken away. You know, you really have had a huge – if football as a whole – maybe this is another discussion for another time, but football's been impacted by whether any of that stuff is true. You know, obviously some part of it is true, but the how widespread it is nobody really knows yet. But it had a huge impact in football. So it had a huge impact in my business. And people who I loved working with, I had to let go. Like, you know, guys that you remember being like, I love those guys. And that was hard. And so you learn a lot of things in business. Like, people think when you get into business, it's going to, you know, it just goes on that straight plane, you know, steady plane up. Right. And it really is this. It's a lot of this. And you hope that it continues overall to rise. But you're going to go through peaks and valleys and lots of highs and lows. And I had to learn that because we had so much success so quick. I really had to learn to adapt to when that book came out and that movie came out. I said, oh no, this is like not if half the kids or 30% of the kids get out of football, obviously that has to have a 30% impact in my business.
Yep.
And what really started to happen was not only did it have a 30% impact in my business, but the other 20% of people who thought maybe they wanted to be an elite athlete just decided that they were going to be a high school football player. So why do you need to go to elite camps if you want to be a varsity football player? It's going to end for you at the end of high school, right? So now 50% of your business went away like that. Over the course of, over 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And you start to look, so you're looking at yourself, okay, what can I do to do better? And you try to adjust that and then, you adapt. So then I had to learn to adapt. I had to learn to work with people on a part-time basis. And then the load that I started to pass off on a lot of people working now had to come back on me because financially that's what you had to do, right? In order to to be able to sustain. And then I started coming up with other programs and then doing other things. And I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing different stuff that contribute to my income. I have different businesses. I have an agency now, right? And so you learn those things. And to me, like, I love what you're doing. Like, I love that you're, especially obviously the athlete thing, being an athlete and a coach, it's kind of dear to me, but I love the fact that you're helping people understand how sport and business and how that transition happens and the importance of it, in helping athletes to realize that there are more things that you can do. You're just not thinking about it in the right way. And applying the things that you do know as true within sports, and really just humbling yourself to take that step in whatever it is, business coach, whatever it is you're going to do. I think it's an amazing path. Like, I feel like if you could speak to every college around the country eventually and start to get those guys, no matter what level of sports they play, to understand that it's so much of a more impactful message than when the NCAA puts out, and the NCAA is trying, when they put out, like, you're not going to go professional in your sport. Like, athletes don't relate to that, to me.
Nope, not at all.
Because we all think we're going professional. Like, right. I did. Everybody thinks they're going professional. So when you start to tell them, is like, let's take what you know as an athlete and the principles that you know, and let's figure out what else you like or what else you think you can do. And let's take these principles as an athlete and begin to start applying it right now, even in college.
Yes.
So if you don't become a pro athlete, you're hitting the ground running.
Hey, that's it.
You hit the ground running. And it's funny because, as you know, like, I own an agency and I work with NFL players, the guys who are going to be NFL players, and we've had a lot of guys go to league, but obviously we've had a lot of guys that didn't, right? So you go and sometimes they'll say, this NFL thing is an all or nothing. Like, this is all I've worked. I try to tell them, like, listen, yes, I want you. Obviously, I'm your agent. I want you to make the NFL, but don't just think about it in those limiting terms. You want to do it. You should be doing everything you can to make the NFL. That's been your goal. I'm representing you because I think that you could make it. So obviously you're here for a reason, but don't limit yourself to just that, because even Tom Brady, who is probably the closest to being able to play forever of anybody,
right,
it's going to come to an end for him. You could see even in the Super Bowl, with him that did I lose you there? I don't know if I lost him there, but you could see even within the Super Bowl that Tom Brady, the clock is ticking. So hopefully we can get you back here. Are you there, Derrick? I think I might have lost him here.
It skipped out on me.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you, and because I can talk to you forever, and we'll get another podcast going another time. Tell people where they can, find out more about you. Obviously, a ton of athletes follow me. I want them to be able to reach out to you. Where can they find you?
So if they are on social media, they can follow me on any social media platform at Derrick, Derrick, Furlow, Furlow Jr., Jr. So Derrick Furlow Jr., LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they can follow me there. And as far as my programs, my books, any of that stuff, they can go to sportslifebusiness.com. I'm actually giving away a free copy of my book, While Supplies Last, at sportslifebusiness.com. And just to see any other things that I do or get me to come speak, they can go to derrickfurlow.com for any booking inquiries or any of my other products. But I would just say, athletes, man, stop thinking about what you gave the game and start thinking about what the game gave you.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, listen, Thanks so much for being on. This was a fantastic episode. If there's anything I could ever do, anytime. I just love what you're doing. Like I saw it in your eyes when you were there working the camps that you're going to go to a whole different level. You had big plans, and I'm so glad that you're acting on those plans. Everyone go make sure you get his book, man. Get that free copy. I might have to go on that site and get myself one.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate the time, man. Thank you for the opportunity, man. Keep doing big things. It's always great to see you take action and do big things. It only inspires guys like me, man. So I appreciate everything you do, Dave, and thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks so much.